think HSBC will undoubtedly be pleased with this. I think investors might be less pleased because we're talking about an absence of $1 billion in fines from this time last year. We're talking about net operating income down by 4% as well. So on the face of it, those look like negatives. However, they have reduced costs by 14% overall. What they've done is they've got out of businesses that either weren't performing or were unnecessary to core interests. So that's good because there have been complaints about HSBC having far too many costs on its books generally, and its growth being sluggish as well.
Jenkins, who's been following a story from central London, a world business reporter. Tim, give us some background on this, exactly what happened.
Well, for a couple of decades, Jamie, Iceland's been wanting to diversify its industries away from safe things like fishing, and decided it had an opportunity to do so with the low interest rates that are obtained in lots of the parts of the world on the money markets around about that period. So they used that money, and Iceland's banks started lending and causing something they called an outvasion, not an invasion, an outvasion of Icelandic businesses and individuals going out and buying assets abroad, property, or, for example, getting money in from abroad, offering very high returns to savers into Icelandic savings banks. Trouble is, that business model of using cheap money and depending upon it over the longer term was a business model that failed for so many people after 2007.
Colin Powell ends his visit no closer to an Israeli-Palestinian ceasefire. Medical aid workers clash with Israeli troops near the West Bank town of Jenin. Dutch army chief quits over failure to prevent massacre in the Bosnian War. Afghanistan's former king heads home after 29 years in exile. You're watching BBC News, I'm Tim Jenkins. The American Secretary of State Colin Powell is on his way home at the end of his peace mission to the Middle East after failing to achieve his main objectives. Mr. Powell,
we really can't say.
Mr. Baxter had been expected to give evidence, hadn't he, at the Senate committee investigation. He must have been under an enormous amount of pressure because of that. He'd be testifying against his friends and colleagues, wouldn't he?
He was asked to give evidence to the Energy and Commerce Committee.
John Prescott in a moment or two. Right now, the news.
Good morning again. 6 Catholic men have been shot dead by loyalist gunmen in a pub in Northern Ireland. 5 others were wounded.
The UVF said the murders were in retaliation for a gun attack by a Republican splinter group, the INLA, in a loyalist area of Belfast last Thursday, in which 2 men died. Dennis Murray, BBC News, Loughin Island.
Well, I'm joined now from Loughin Island by our reporter Tim Jenkins. Tim, what more can you tell us this morning?
Well, security forces are now resuming their search for evidence in the Heights bar behind me, and villagers themselves are gathering their thoughts for the day. Some of them haven't been sleeping all night, among them the parish priest.
The 2 prime ministers leave the talks but promise to return if needed. And the IRA releases a statement saying it wants a permanent peace but doesn't mention decommissioning. Good afternoon. The Prime Minister and the Taoiseach have left Northern Ireland after a morning spent meeting with the parties at Hillsborough Castle. Both men said they'd return if needed before Friday's deadline for the formation of an executive.
The wife of a Sinn Féin member was shot dead last night by loyalist terrorists in Belfast. Theresa Clinton was killed by a burst of gunfire through the window of her home in the Lower Ormeau area of Belfast. Later, the Ulster freedom fighters said they were responsible.
The attack took place shortly before midnight. A car drew up outside the victim's home. A gunman threw a breeze block through the ground floor window and fired a sustained burst of gunfire. Inside, the dead victim was with her husband and with her 2 daughters aged 13 and 3. The UFF has admitted carrying out the attack and said that the husband had been the intended target.
Ond nawr ar S4C. Tara naw gyda Dylan Iorwerth.
Mr Adams i America rwan ymhellach, gyda Gito Harry'n yn studio ni yn Llundain a Tim Jenkins yn ein studio ni yn Belfast. Mr Jenkins, gai ofyn i chi'n gynta, faint o les mae'r ymweliad yma ag America wedi wneud i achos Gerry Adams ac achos y Gweriniaethwyr yn gyffredinol?
Wel, mae hi'n anodd i gweld bod les o gwbl i Sinn Féin. Mae'n wir mae Sinn Féin wedi ennill y brwydr ar y teledu yn yr Unol Daleithiau, ond mae'r Bill Clinton wedi dweud dydw i ddim yn wneud unrhyw beth concret.
Now, this is all about a child's right to play. Is that right denied people here in Northern Ireland?
It is. It's not something that people might think.
For now, planning has already started for next year's Play Day, rumoured to be bigger and better again, and maybe drier.